They told us to work hard, to get a degree, to find a job. And if we were lucky, maybe, just maybe, we'd be successful. But no one told us the truth. That success doesn't start with money. It starts with mindset. And while most people are busy chasing the next paycheck, the wealthy are building something different, a system, a philosophy, a way of thinking. Because the real difference between rich and poor isn't opportunity, it's how they think, how they act, and the quiet, invisible decisions they make every single day. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever wondered why you're working harder but not getting ahead, this video is for you. Not to teach you how to get rich overnight, but to show you how to think rich before you're rich. Welcome to the mindset that changes everything. Welcome to the first step toward financial freedom. Most people will spend their entire lives chasing money, as if it's some magical finish line. They run harder, grind longer, sacrifice more. But the truth? They're running in circles, because wealth, real wealth, isn't a destination. It's a way of thinking. Let me say this clearly. Wealth is not a number in your bank account. It's not a salary. It's not a house. It's not a car. Wealth is a mindset. It's how you see the world, how you make decisions when no one's watching. It's what you believe you're worth, not just financially, but personally, emotionally, spiritually. The reason most people stay broke isn't because they're lazy. It's because they've been conditioned to believe that wealth is something outside of themselves, something they'll find someday if they hustle hard enough. But the people who build real freedom, they don't wait for wealth, they become it. You see, broke isn't just a financial condition. It's a mental trap. It sounds like, I'll save when I make more. I can't invest. I don't have enough. I'm just not good with money. Sound familiar? That's the poverty script. It's a set of invisible beliefs passed down from generations, schools, media, even family. And unless you change the script, you'll repeat the story. But here's the good news. You can change it. Today. Right now. Because your brain is not a vault. It's a garden. And what you plant, you grow. If you plant scarcity, you grow fear. If you plant ownership, responsibility, and vision, you grow wealth from the inside out. Think about this. Two people earn the exact same salary. One ends the year broke. The other ends the year with investments, savings, momentum. Why? Because one of them spent every dollar chasing comfort, and the other built a future with discipline. The difference wasn't income, it was mindset. The wealthy don't see money as something to spend. They see it as something to direct, a tool, a soldier, a strategy. Every dollar has a mission, and that mission is freedom. Wealthy people don't buy their identity. They build it. They don't buy things to impress people they don't even like. They buy assets. They buy peace of mind. They buy time. Because here's the hard truth no one teaches in school. If you spend money faster than you grow, no amount of income will save you. You'll make 6 figures and still feel like you're drowning. Why? Because you haven't built the container that can hold wealth. That container isn't a bank account. It's a set of habits. It's your mindset. Do you believe you're capable of being wealthy? Not just in theory, but truly, deeply believe it. Because your results will never rise higher than your identity. If you see yourself as broke, you'll sabotage anything that threatens that identity. If you see yourself as average, you'll reject anything that smells like abundance. But if you choose to believe, I am someone who attracts wealth, who stewards it wisely, who multiplies it with purpose, then your mind will begin looking for ways to make that true. We don't get what we want. We get what we expect. We get what we believe is possible. So let me ask you, what story have you been telling yourself about money? Was it, money doesn't grow on trees? Rich people are greedy? People like us don't get ahead? Or was it, money is a tool? Wealth is earned, not inherited. I have the power to change my financial future. Because until you rewrite your inner narrative, you'll stay stuck, no matter how hard you work. The richest people you know didn't just make money. They built the mental framework to receive and grow it. They learned how to delay gratification. They learned how to track every dollar. They learned how to say no to things that felt good now, so they could say yes to freedom later. That's not luck. That's mindset. That's identity. That's discipline. And the best part? It's all learnable. You can start today. Start with this. Pay yourself first, even if it's just $5, even if it feels small. That habit is more powerful than any bonus check. Start tracking your money. Awareness is the first step to control. Start learning about money, even just 10 minutes a day. What you feed your mind will eventually shape your life. Start asking better questions. Will this move make me feel good now, or set me free later? And most of all, start seeing yourself as a wealth builder, not someone who's trying to get rich, but someone who's mastering the game, one move at a time. Wealth is not a finish line. It's not a jackpot. It's not a lucky break. It's a decision, a mindset, a commitment to growth over comfort, to purpose over ego, to systems over emotion. And it starts in the most powerful place you'll ever own, your mind. So if you want to build real wealth, don't chase the money, change the lens, change the habits, change the story. Because once you do, the money will follow. There's a rule the wealthy live by, and the broke almost never follow. It's simple, it's powerful, and if you apply it consistently, it can change everything about your financial life. It's this: pay yourself first. Not your landlord, not the government, not your bills, your subscriptions, or your weekend plans. You. Before you spend a single dollar, honor your future self, because if you don't, no one else will. Now I know what some people are already thinking, but I don't make enough to save. I've got too many expenses. Maybe once I get that raise. Let me tell you something the 3% understand. Saving has nothing to do with how much you make. It has everything to do with your priorities. If you wait to save until you have more, you'll never save, because you'll always find something else to spend it on. But when you choose to pay yourself first, even if it's just $5 or $10, you're sending a message to your subconscious. I'm not working just to survive. I'm building something. Think of every dollar like a seed. Most people scatter their seeds carelessly. Fast food, gadgets, streaming services, impulse buys. They plant nothing, and then they wonder why nothing grows. But the wealthy, they plant every single day. They send their money out like soldiers, trained, disciplined, assigned to a mission. And over time, those seeds grow into freedom. That's what paying yourself first really is. It's not just about saving. It's about control. It's about discipline. It's about identity. It's saying, I am the kind of person who puts my future ahead of my feelings. I remember when I first heard this idea. I was broke, living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in bills and excuses. And the thought of saving even $20 felt laughable. But my mentor looked me in the eyes and said, don't wait to have more to start. Start with what you have, and you'll have more. So I did. 10%. Automatically. No negotiation. Before anything else got paid, I did. And it wasn't just the money that changed. It was me. Something happens when you begin to pay yourself first. You walk differently. You feel lighter. You stop being a slave to your paycheck and start becoming a master of your destiny. It creates momentum. It creates pride. It creates proof that you're not just surviving, you're building. And here's the magic. It doesn't even matter how much you start with. $5 or $500, the amount is less important than the habit, because habits compound, and what starts small eventually becomes unstoppable. Think about the typical person's payday. The check comes in. They pay their rent, the phone bill, the groceries, the credit card, the night out, the streaming subscriptions, and at the end, they say, "I'll save what's left." Spoiler alert, there's never anything left, because money flows where attention goes, and if your future doesn't get first attention, it gets no attention at all. That's why you must flip the script. Don't save what's left. Spend what's left after you save. Paying yourself first isn't selfish. It's responsible. You're not hoarding money. You're protecting your freedom. You're saying to the world, I matter. My goals matter. My future matters more than temporary pleasure. Every time you pay yourself first, you're investing in peace of mind, options, time, freedom, generational wealth. You're buying back control, and let's be real, most of us don't have an income problem. We have a spending problem. The coffee runs, the delivery fees, the subscriptions you forgot about, the endless scroll and swipe that slowly bleeds away your future. But when you pay yourself first, you force a new level of awareness. You start asking better questions. Do I really need this? Is this moving me closer to freedom, or just filling a moment of boredom? Those questions, that pause, that's how wealth is built. Automate it. Don't rely on motivation. Make it automatic, like brushing your teeth. Set up a transfer. 10% of every paycheck goes into a savings or investment account the moment it hits. No thinking, no temptation, just a system that builds your future, whether you feel like it or not. Because discipline is great, but systems are better. The rich don't depend on willpower. They build rituals. And here's the deeper truth. When you start paying yourself first, you're telling life, I am ready to receive more. Why? Because money doesn't flow to people who just want it. It flows to people who respect it, who know what to do with it, who prove they can steward it. If you can't manage $100, you won't manage $10,000. And if you can't save when it's hard, you won't save when it's easy. Wealth isn't created by chance. It's created by character. So if you take nothing else from this, take this. Pay yourself first, every time. No excuses, no delays, no exceptions. Start today, even if it's just $10, even if it's uncomfortable. Because that tiny action, it's a revolution. It's the beginning of the mindset that changes everything. You are not just a consumer. You are a creator, and your future deserves to be funded, not someday, not when things get better. Now pay yourself first and watch your life transform. Let me ask you a question. Do you actually know where your money goes? Not a guess, not a vague idea, not I think I'm doing okay. I mean exact, specific, crystal clear. Most people don't. And that, right there, is the silent killer of wealth. Because here's a truth the 3% live by. You cannot manage what you do not measure. If your money slips through your fingers every month and you're not tracking it, that's not a mystery, that's math. See, most people don't lose their wealth in big dramatic moments. They lose it in tiny forgettable decisions, the $9 subscription they never use, the $15 lunch instead of the food they already had, the $3 charge here, $7 there, $20 somewhere else. It all adds up, and it adds up quietly. It's not the one big mistake that keeps you broke. It's the lack of awareness. Clarity is the habit that changes everything, because money doesn't disappear. It just moves, quietly, into someone else's hands. And unless you're paying attention, you won't notice until it's too late. That's why the 3% track everything. Not because they're obsessed, not because they're scared, but because they understand a simple truth. Where attention goes, money grows. I'll be honest. When I first started tracking my finances, I hated it. It felt tedious. It made me face things I didn't want to see. It forced me to look at the dumb things I'd bought, the money I wasted, the truth I tried to ignore. But that discomfort, that awareness, that was the beginning of freedom. Because once I could see where my money was going, I could change the direction. I wasn't drifting anymore. I was driving. The wealthy don't hope they're doing well. They know. They review their numbers. They analyze patterns. They spot leaks and plug them. They don't fear the truth. They seek it. Because with truth comes power, and with power comes control. If you're not tracking your money, you're flying blind, and blind pilots crash. So let's talk practical. How do you track? Simple. Pick a tool. Any tool. A notebook, a spreadsheet, an app like YNAB, Mint, or even your bank's built-in tracker. The tool doesn't matter as much as the habit. Every week, not month, not year, week, sit down and ask 4 questions. What did I earn? What did I spend? What did I save? What did I invest? That's it. 4 numbers, 4 decisions, 1 massive shift in clarity. You don't need to be an accountant. You don't need to love numbers. You just need to be honest, because honesty with your money is honesty with your life. And the more honest you are, the more powerful you become. Tracking reveals things you never saw before. It shows you the habits that are draining your future. It exposes the emotional spending, the thoughtless swipes, the little addictions. But it also shows you what's working. It shows your progress, your wins, your growth. And that kind of feedback, it fuels consistency. Most people avoid tracking because they're scared of what they'll see. But what you avoid controls you. What you face, you can fix. Would you rather feel a little uncomfortable now, or live your whole life wondering where your money went? The 97% live in the dark. The 3% turn on the lights, even if they don't like what they see at first, because they know what gets tracked gets transformed. And here's where the magic starts to happen. Once you track long enough, you start to see patterns. You realize you eat out 4 times more than you thought. You notice you're paying for 3 services you never use. You discover that just $10 saved every day adds up to over $3,600 a year. Suddenly, small changes become obvious, and obvious changes become effortless. You no longer need to guess where to cut or what to improve. The numbers speak for themselves. And here's what's beautiful. Tracking builds identity. Every time you sit down and log your money, you're reinforcing a message to yourself. I am someone who pays attention. I am someone who leads, not follows. I am the CEO of my life. Wealth doesn't come to people who are lucky. It comes to people who are clear, who know what they want, what they have, and where they're going. Clarity creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Don't wait until you're good with money to track. Track your way into being good. Start messy. Start with incomplete data. Start with a guess if you have to, but start. Because this habit, over time, creates separation. It's the reason 2 people with the same paycheck end up in completely different places 10 years later. One stays stuck, the other builds wealth. And the only real difference? Clarity. So tonight, this week, right now, begin. Open your bank app. Write down what you made. Write down what you spent. Write down what you saved. Write down what you invested. No judgment, no shame, just truth. And do it again next week, and again the week after that, until clarity becomes your default setting. Because the people who win with money aren't the ones who make the most. They're the ones who understand the flow. They're the ones who know exactly where their dollars go and why. They lead their money like a general leads an army. Strategic, deliberate, focused. And it all starts with a simple habit. Track every dollar. Turn on the lights. look at the truth, and take back control. Because clarity, that's the habit that changes everything. Let's get one thing straight. Working more hours will not make you rich. If it did, the hardest working people in the world would be millionaires. But they're not. They're exhausted. See, the truth is brutal but freeing. You don't get paid for time. You get paid for value. And until you understand that, you'll be stuck in the cycle, grinding harder but getting nowhere. The wealthy don't trade hours. They trade impact. They trade results. They trade value. And that shift in thinking, that's the dividing line between the 97% and the 3%. Most people are trained from a young age to be time sellers. Work 40 hours a week. Clock in, clock out. Work overtime. Make more. But here's the truth. Time is limited. You only get 24 hours a day, just like everyone else. If your income is tied to time, your earning potential is capped by your energy, your health, your schedule. But if your income is tied to value, suddenly, there's no ceiling. Because value isn't bound by the clock. It's bound by creativity, leverage, and skill. So what is value? Value is solving problems that matter. Value is making life easier, faster, better for someone else. Value is creating something others want and can't get anywhere else, whether that's a business, a product, a service, or even just an idea. The more value you bring, the more income you attract. Think about it. Two people both work 8 hours. One flips burgers, the other negotiates $1 million contract. Same hours, vastly different value. One earns $15 per hour. The other earns $1,500 per hour. It's not about time. It's about what you do with time. The wealthy understand this. That's why they don't just work harder, they work smarter. They spend time developing high-value skills. Communication, negotiation, sales branding, investing, leadership, copywriting, product design systems, thinking skills that don't just make them employees, they make them irreplaceable. Skills that separate you from the pack and allow you to multiply your effort. Because here's a secret, skills compound faster than money. I'll be honest, there was a time when I thought working harder was noble. I wore my hustle like a badge of honor. Early mornings, late nights, no rest, no weekends, no boundaries. But I was still broke, still stressed, still stuck. Then I met someone who made more in 1 hour than I did in a month. Not because he worked harder, but because he thought differently. He didn't trade hours. He traded solutions. That conversation changed me. I started asking a different question. Instead of, how can I make more money this week? I started asking, how can I become more valuable this year? Because once you become valuable, you don't chase money. Money finds you. People pay for what they can't do themselves. So if you want to earn more, solve bigger problems. Learn a skill no one around you knows. Offer a service that makes people's lives easier. Package your knowledge into something scalable. That's how you escape the time trap. Look around. Who are the highest paid people in the world? Entrepreneurs, inventors, entertainers, experts, people who create, lead, innovate, and influence. They don't trade hours, they trade results. If you can help someone save time, make money, reduce pain, gain confidence, build something better, you are valuable, and people will pay you for that. This is where your freedom begins, not with more hustle, but with more intention. You could keep pushing 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, hoping for a promotion. Or you could take 30 minutes a day to study a skill that changes your trajectory forever. You could spend your weekends escaping reality, or building a new one. The choice isn't between rich or poor, it's between value-driven or time-dependent. Let me give you this challenge. This week, identify one skill that would increase your value in the marketplace. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's storytelling. Maybe it's learning how to sell, how to build a brand, how to edit videos, how to launch a digital product. Pick one. Then devote 30 to 60 minutes a day to mastering it. Track your progress. Apply it. Test it. Improve it. Monetize it. Do that for 6 months, and you'll become a different person. Here's what the 3% do differently. They don't ask, "How much can I make this month?" They ask, "What can I build this year that will pay me for the next 10? Because that's the real game. Building assets, not just income. A high-value skill is an asset. A YouTube channel is an asset. A product, a brand, a portfolio, a book. These are all assets. They don't pay you once, they pay you forever. And the rich? They spend time building assets, while the poor trade time for survival. Now, this doesn't mean you quit your job tomorrow. It doesn't mean you stop working. It means you shift your focus. Use your job to fund your freedom. Use your evenings to build skills. Use your weekends to create something that compounds. Because once you become valuable, you'll never worry about money again. And here's the final truth. You only have so much time in this life. You can either sell it for cheap or invest it into something that multiplies. The rich choose the latter. They trade time for value, then trade value for freedom. And it all starts with one decision. I will stop trading hours and start building worth. Your time is priceless, so stop selling it. Let's make one thing clear. Willpower is not a plan. It's not a strategy, and it's not reliable, because willpower fades, motivation wears off, life gets loud, stress creeps in, distractions multiply. If your financial future depends on how motivated you feel every day, you're in trouble. But that's how most people live. They hope they'll do better. They hope they'll resist temptation. They hope they'll start saving next month, investing next week, tracking their money eventually. And hope is not a system. The 3%, the people who win long term, they understand something deeper. Discipline is not something you force. It's something you design. They don't rely on emotion. They rely on systems. Because systems don't care how you feel. They don't get tired. They don't forget. They just run over and over like a machine. That's the key. You don't need more willpower. You need a system that works when your willpower doesn't. Let me break this down. A system is simply a set of decisions made in advance, so you don't have to decide in the moment. It removes friction. It removes temptation. It creates automatic progress. And in a world full of distractions, systems are your armor. Let me give you examples the 3% use every day. 1. Automatic saving. Set up a percentage of your paycheck to move directly into a savings or investment account before you see it. No thinking, no emotion, no delay. You never feel the money leave, but over time, you'll watch it grow. That's a system. 2. Pre-planned spending limits. Use a budgeting app, envelope method, or separate bank accounts. Decide at the beginning of the month what each dollar will do. That way your money has a mission. And you don't get caught in, where did it all go? That's a system. 3. Weekly money check-ins. Every Sunday, review your spending, your savings, your goals. Make it a ritual. Same time, same place. Coffee. Calm. Clarity. That's not discipline. That's a structure. And structure is stronger than willpower. 4th, subscription scrub. Once every 90 days, go through your statements and cancel anything that isn't serving your future. Don't wait until you're broke to do this. Make it part of your financial hygiene. You brush your teeth automatically, right? This is the same. A system of review, a system of removal, a system of respect for your money. See the pattern? Every one of these removes choice from the moment, because the more decisions you have to make in real time, the more likely you are to default to comfort. You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your systems. Now ask yourself, where in your life are you depending on willpower right now? Is it remembering to save? Controlling how much you spend on food delivery? Trying not to check your phone every 15 minutes? Anywhere you're relying on pure self-control, you're at risk. Because stress, fatigue, and emotion will always show up. And when they do, systems will save you. That's why the rich don't try harder. They think ahead. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a time when I struggled to save even $100 a month. I told myself, I'll just remember to transfer it manually. But every month, something came up. An expense, a distraction, an excuse. Until one day, I set up an auto transfer, $100, same day, every month. And I forgot about it. But my future didn't. That single automation became the seed of my first investment account. And years later, it grew into something that changed my life. Not because I had more willpower, but because I had a system. That's the key. Your future should not depend on how disciplined you feel this week, because your emotions will fluctuate. Life will get messy. You'll have bad days, setbacks, emergencies. But your systems, they don't flinch. And if you build them right, they will carry you through the chaos, through the seasons, through the storms. So here's what I want you to do. This week, build one system. Not a dream, not a wish. A system. Set up automatic savings. Block off time for your weekly review. Create a spending cap on a category where you usually lose control. Use calendar reminders to check your financial goals monthly. Whatever it is, make it small, make it simple, and make it automatic. And don't just build financial systems, build personal systems too. Morning routines that start your day focused. Reading schedules that feed your mind daily. Content limits that keep your time sacred. Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about energy, time, clarity, and peace. The rich don't just automate their finances, they automate their focus. Let's be real. You're not going to feel 100% every day. You're not always going to be motivated. But if your systems are in place, you don't need to be. You just show up, execute, repeat, and the results compound. So if you've ever felt like you're tired of starting over, tired of slipping back into old habits, tired of feeling like success requires superhuman effort, here's your answer. Build better systems. Because the people who win long-term aren't the most motivated, they're the most structured. Don't build your financial future on emotion. Build it on process. Build it on automation. Build it on quiet, repeatable systems that don't need to feel exciting, just effective. That's how the 3% live, and it's available to you right now. System over struggle, clarity over chaos, design over discipline. You don't need more energy. You need better systems. There's a dangerous myth out there, a lie so many people believe, that if you just get a good job, work hard, and stay loyal, you'll be financially secure. But here's the truth, and it might sting. A job is not security. It's a single income stream, one paycheck, one boss, one system, one risk. If that job disappears, so does everything. The 3% understand something. The 97% often ignore. Wealth is not built on one income stream. It's built on many. You don't build freedom by putting all your eggs in one basket. You build it by creating a network of income streams, so that if one falls, the others still stand. You don't need 10 right away. You don't need to be a millionaire. But you do need to stop depending on just one source of cash flow. Think of your income like a table with one leg. Wobbly, unstable, fragile. The slightest shake, and it collapses. But a table with 3 or 4 solid legs, stable, resilient, strong, The wealthy build financial tables with multiple legs: their job, their investments, their side hustles, their businesses, their royalties, their digital products, their rental income. Each one adds strength, each one adds security, each one adds freedom. And here's the best part: you don't have to build them all at once. You just have to start. Maybe you start with a freelance gig. Maybe it's selling something, Maybe it's a small YouTube channel, a newsletter, a course, a product on Etsy, an affiliate link. It doesn't have to make $10,000 a month. It just has to start making something, because $50 this month can become $500 next month, and $5,000 a year from now. The first stream is the hardest, but once it flows, others follow. Let me tell you something most people never realize. Your job is your seed money, not your identity, not your life sentence, not your forever plan. Use it to fund your freedom, not to fund your lifestyle. Every extra dollar you don't spend on stuff is a dollar you can use to build your next income stream. The poor consume, the wealthy reinvest. Now, I know what some people are thinking, but I don't have time. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't know where to start. Let me tell you something. Start with what you know. Start with what people already ask you about. Start with what you already use, love, or do on weekends. There's opportunity everywhere, but you won't see it until you train your eyes to look. Here are a few ways the 3% build income beyond their jobs: digital products, ebooks, templates, guides, things you build once and sell forever. Content creation. YouTube, podcasting, blogging. It starts slow, then compounds. Freelancing, writing, design, video editing, coding, consulting. You already have a skill. Monetize it. Investing, stocks, ETFs, real estate, dividend portfolios. Let your money earn while you sleep. Affiliate marketing. Recommend things you use. Earn passive commissions. Not every stream will work for you, but one of them will, if you commit. And here's the deeper truth. Multiple income streams aren't just about money. They're about power. The power to say no to a toxic boss. The power to take time off without guilt. The power to invest in what matters most. The power to walk away. One income controls you. Multiple incomes free you. I remember when I had only one stream. It felt fine, until it didn't. An unexpected event hit, and everything unraveled. That fear, that loss of control. It taught me a lesson I never forgot. If your entire life depends on one income source, you're one bad day away from starting over. Since then, I've built more. Some small, some bigger, some failed, some exploded. But the point isn't perfection, it's diversification. It's building options. Here's what I want you to remember. Your time is your most precious asset. And if you're trading it all for a single paycheck, you're not building wealth, you're surviving. Wealth is what happens when you learn to earn in multiple directions. While you sleep, while you travel, while you rest, while you build. One stream sustains, multiple streams scale. So here's your challenge. This month, not next year, build one new income stream. Small, simple, focused. Maybe it earns you $20. Maybe it earns you $200. Maybe it's just the beginning. But start. Because every stream you build is another vote for your freedom. You don't need more hours. You need more flows. Remember, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. Not 1, not 2, 7. Not because they're lucky, but because they built them, one by one. So don't just get better at your job. Get better at building beyond your job. The goal isn't to work forever. The goal is to have options. To wake up one day and realize you're not working because you have to. You're working because you want to. And that's the real wealth. One paycheck is fragile. Multiple income streams are freedom. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise. Create your own. Start today, start small, but start. We've talked about money. We've talked about systems. We've talked about building income streams and paying yourself first, but none of it matters if you're still feeding your mind junk. Because here's a truth that separates the rich from the poor, the focused from the distracted, the builders from the consumers. Your mind is your greatest asset or your greatest liability. Let me ask you something real. What are you feeding your mind? Is it constant noise, endless scrolling, drama, negativity, entertainment, distractions? Or is it ideas, wisdom, frameworks, tools, mentorship? Because just like your body becomes what you eat, your life becomes what you consume mentally. Wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with mindset. And mindset isn't some fluffy, feel-good idea. It's the result of what you repeatedly expose yourself to. The 3% know this. That's why they treat their mind like a fortress. They guard what goes in. They choose what to focus on. They feed it growth, daily. Because success is not a one-time event. It's not a seminar. It's not a weekend of motivation. It's a habit, a daily decision. Most people spend hours watching shows that entertain them, but not a single minute learning something that could change them. They binge gossip. They scroll mindlessly. They say, "I'm too tired to read," but they're never too tired to scroll TikTok for an hour. And then they wonder, why does nothing change? The answer is simple. If you feed your mind garbage, you will live in garbage thoughts and garbage results. So let me flip the script. Imagine what would happen if, instead of consuming distractions, you began consuming transformation. 10 pages of a great book per day, one podcast on wealth, mindset, or strategy per morning. Commute one YouTube channel that challenges your thinking. Not just entertains it, one journal entry, reflecting on what you learned this week. Do that for 30 days, and you will not think the same. Do it for 1 year, and you will not live the same. Let me be real with you. Your friends, your family, your co-workers, they may not understand this. They may tell you, "Relax. Why are you always listening to that stuff? Why don't you just enjoy life?" And you'll have to decide, do you want comfort today or freedom tomorrow? The 3% choose growth, even when it's boring, even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one claps, because they understand this law. Knowledge compounds, and when you feed your mind daily, your wealth follows. I remember when I started my journey, I had no money, no mentor, no big plan, but I had books, I had podcasts, I had free videos, and I had time. So I made a decision. Every day I would learn. Not once in a while. Not when I felt like it. Every day. And I didn't just learn for entertainment. I studied to apply. I read to transform. I listened to do. That changed everything. Let me give you a rule the 3% live by. Education doesn't end with school. It begins when school ends. Formal education makes you a living. Self-education makes you a fortune. Because schools teach you to memorize, but self-education teaches you to think, to solve, to build, to grow. The average person stops learning when they graduate. The wealthy, they never stop. They read, they write, they reflect, because they know, if I stop growing, my results stop too. So here's your challenge. From now on, commit to feeding your mind daily. Start simple. Read 10 pages of a book on money, mindset, or leadership. Replace 30 minutes of social media with a podcast that expands your thinking. Watch one video per day that teaches, not just entertains. Journal 3 sentences about what you learned and how you'll use it. Not complicated, not overwhelming, just consistent. Because small inputs lead to massive breakthroughs. And don't just learn alone. Teach what you're learning. Share it. Talk about it. Write about it. Help others grow. Because when you teach, you understand more deeply. You move from consumer to leader. And leadership is the final layer of transformation. It's not just about feeding your mind, it's about multiplying your impact. So here's what I want you to remember. You will never out-earn your mindset. You will never outperform your self-image. You will never outgrow the level of information you allow into your life. Who you become is determined by what you feed. So feed your mind with intention. Feed it truth. Feed it strategy. Feed it stories of people who've walked where you want to go. Feed it until your thinking upgrades so much. Your results have no choice but to follow. You are the gardener. Your mind is the soil. What you plant grows. So stop planting distractions. Start planting discipline. Start planting vision. Start planting transformation. Because in the end, your life is the harvest of your mental diet. Feed your mind daily, and it will feed your future. Here's a secret most people never learn. Dreams don't build wealth. Discipline does. Deadlines do. Clear, specific goals, backed by action, that's where freedom begins. And yet most people go through life with vague wishes. I want to be rich. I want more time. I want financial freedom someday. But someday is not a date. It's a trap. The 3% understand something, the 97% don't. A dream without a deadline is just a fantasy. If you want to build wealth, real wealth, you need more than desire. You need definition. So ask yourself, how much do you want to have saved by next year? What do you want your monthly cash flow to be in 5 years? What skill do you want to master in the next 90 days? What debt will you eliminate? And by when? If you can't answer clearly, with numbers and dates, then you're not on a path. You're wandering. The 3% don't just hope they'll succeed. They engineer it. They take their big vision, break it into milestones, then slice those milestones into weekly, daily, repeatable actions. And that's what builds momentum. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's math plus clarity plus consistency. Let's get practical. Let's say your goal is to save $10,000 this year. Break that down. That's $833 per month. About $208 per week. Roughly $30 per day. Now it's real. Now it's trackable. Now you can build behavior around it. You can cancel that $8 subscription, skip the $12 delivery, cut one expense a day, and hit the target. Not because it's easy, but because it's clear. Clarity is power. Ambiguity is paralysis. Most people don't fail because they can't succeed. They fail because they don't know what success even looks like. They're chasing a feeling instead of a number. They're working hard, but not aiming at anything. That's like shooting arrows into the dark and hoping one hits the target. No archer would do that, and yet most people do it with their life. Here's the difference. The wealthy don't just set goals. They give those goals a deadline, and a deadline changes everything. A deadline turns a vague intention into an urgent mission. It forces you to prioritize. It shrinks your excuses. It puts pressure on your potential. And pressure, used correctly, is how diamonds are made. But goals and deadlines alone aren't enough. You need the third piece, discipline. Not motivation, not inspiration, discipline. Because let's be honest, you're not going to feel like it every day. Some days you'll be tired. Some days you'll be discouraged. Some days you'll want to quit. That's normal. But discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline executes. The 3% treat their goals like promises, not possibilities. They build routines around their goals. They track progress weekly. They celebrate small wins and adjust fast when they fall off track. They don't wait for New Year's. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They start with what they have, where they are, and they move. Because discipline is like a muscle. It gets stronger with use. And the more you keep promises to yourself, the more your confidence grows. Here's a truth that changed my life. You will never rise higher than your ability to keep commitments to yourself. Not to your boss, not to your friends, to yourself. If you can't follow through on your own goals, you'll always be chasing someone else's dream. But the moment you say, "This is my goal, this is the deadline, and this is what I'll do daily to hit it," you take control, you stop drifting, you start leading your own life. So let me challenge you. Right now, write down one goal that scares you just a little. Make it specific. Attach a number. Attach a date. Break it down into weekly actions. Then build a ritual around that action. Every morning, remind yourself of the goal. Every week, review your progress. Every setback, adjust. Don't quit, because the only thing standing between you and that goal is not time, it's commitment. You don't need a vision board. You need a calendar. You don't need more ideas. You need execution. The dream is free. The discipline is what costs. And that's why so few people actually change. But you, if you've come this far, you're not here to stay average. You're here to build something. Something real. Something lasting. Something yours. So what will it be? Another month of, "I'll figure it out"? Or the month you put a stake in the ground and say, "This is what I'm building, and here's when I'll finish it"? You don't need perfection. You need progress. And that progress starts with a goal, a date, and the discipline to show up for it daily. The world rewards clarity. Life respects structure. Discipline creates freedom. Set goals that make you move. Give them deadlines that force your focus. And practice discipline until it becomes identity. That's how you build a life that doesn't just look good online, but feels good to wake up to every single morning. You've come a long way. You've learned how to think, how to save, how to build systems, skills, income, and discipline. But there's one final shift that turns all of this into something far greater: sharing. Because wealth, real wealth, is not just what you accumulate. It's what you pass on. The 3% know this. You don't just build money, you build legacy. And legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about building a ripple that outlives you. You see, most people learn just enough to survive. The wealthy, they learn to lead. They learn to lift others because they understand something deeper. Knowledge that's hoarded dies. Knowledge that's shared multiplies. You've been through the fire, you've gained insights, you've made mistakes, you've collected tools and truths that someone else desperately needs. Don't keep it to yourself. Share what you know, with your younger brother still figuring life out, with your best friend stuck in the 9-to-5 trap, with your partner, your children, your community. Tell them what no one told you. Show them the systems, explain the mindset, model the discipline, lead with your life, not just your words. That's how wealth becomes more than a number. It becomes a culture. Because here's the hard truth. Most families pass down pain, debt, fear, limiting beliefs. But you can be the one who breaks that chain. You can be the one who says, "It ends with me, and it begins again with strength." You can pass down wisdom, strategy, confidence, clarity. That's legacy. And sharing isn't just for others. It's for you. Because when you teach something, you understand it deeper. When you explain it, you refine it. When you lead others, you hold yourself to a higher standard. Teaching locks in what learning can't always hold. It upgrades your identity from student to steward, from consumer to creator. The 3% don't just ask, "How can I win?" They ask, "How can I bring others with me?" They build wealth not just for the lifestyle, but for the legacy. They raise children who are financially literate. They build communities that support growth. They create content, businesses, and systems that serve others long after they're gone. Because money fades. But mindset passed on? That's generational. Think about it. What if someone had taught you this when you were 17? What if you grew up in a household that talked openly about wealth, mindset, and responsibility? What if someone gave you the playbook before you made your biggest mistakes? Now imagine what it means to be that person for someone else. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be one step ahead and willing to reach back. That's leadership. That's legacy. That's how movements begin. And don't wait until you feel ready. Start now. Start with what you've learned from these past 8 steps. Share your takeaways. Record a video. Post a quote. Have a conversation. Buy a book for someone who needs it. Use your voice. Use your story. Use your scars. Because someone out there doesn't need a millionaire. They just need someone real, who's done the work, and is willing to talk about it. Here's what happens when you share. You reinforce your own growth. You unlock new opportunities. You build a tribe of people who think like you. You stop being alone in this journey. Because the truth is, the wealth journey can be lonely, especially when you're thinking differently than the crowd. But when you share, you create connection. And connection builds community. And community multiplies transformation. So here's your next step. Make your growth public, not for applause, not for ego, but for accountability. Post about your saving system. Share your new income stream. Talk about the mindset shift that changed everything. Teach your kids what you're learning. Host a discussion at work or in your friend group. Because when you share, you don't just build money, you build meaning. And meaning, that's what we're really chasing, isn't it? You can have the house, the car, the numbers, but if you don't share the journey, if you don't turn your story into service, it'll always feel like something's missing. Legacy isn't built at the end, it's built in the small moments. When you decide to take what you've learned and use it to light the path for someone else. So I'll leave you with this. The ultimate purpose of building wealth is to become someone worth following, someone who doesn't just win, but lifts, teaches, guides, serves, leads. You've come this far, you've done the work. Now turn that work into impact, teach, share, multiply. Leave the kind of legacy that doesn't just inspire, it equips. Because you weren't just meant to break the cycle. You were meant to build something that lasts. Here it is, the final secret, the principle that separates the broke from the wealthy, not just financially, but mentally. It's not a stock pick. It's not a course. It's not even a strategy. It's a habit, a mindset, a way of living. Delay gratification. Sounds simple, right? But in a world addicted to now, this might be the hardest and most powerful skill you ever develop. Because everything around you screams for your attention. Spend this, buy that, upgrade, swipe, click, escape. And the worst part, it feels normal. But here's the truth. Wealthy people train themselves to think beyond the moment. They see 5 years ahead, while the 97% are stuck in 5 minutes of temptation. Let me ask you something real. How many times have you bought something, not because you needed it, but because you wanted to feel good, just for a moment? That rush, that escape, that comfort, and then it fades, and the bill stays. That's not just a spending habit. That's a pattern of emotional relief that's keeping you broke. The 3%, they still have wants, they still feel temptation, but they've trained themselves to ask one question: will this bring me long-term freedom or just short-term comfort? That question changes everything. Because once you understand that every dollar is a decision, you stop throwing money at your feelings and start directing it toward your freedom. See, here's what the wealthy know. Every time you delay gratification, you don't lose pleasure, you gain power. Let me give you a picture. Imagine planting a seed. You water it, you protect it, you wait, day after day, week after week. It's quiet, it's boring. Sometimes you wonder if anything's even happening. But one day, that seed breaks the surface. It grows roots, it strengthens, it becomes something no storm can shake. That's how wealth works. It's not built with impulse, it's built with patience, with restraint, with delayed pleasure in service of permanent freedom. Now, let's talk practical. What does delayed gratification actually look like? It's choosing to invest $100 instead of buying another pair of shoes. It's cooking at home when you'd rather order out and putting the savings into your future. It's saying no to the new car now so you can say yes to a debt-free life later. It's skipping the $6 coffee and sipping compound interest instead. That's not deprivation, that's strategy. The broke spend to impress, the wealthy delay to invest. And here's the beautiful twist. The more you delay, the more you own your decisions. You're no longer reacting, you're creating. You feel the pride of watching your savings grow. You see your investments compound. You feel peace because you're no longer a slave to the moment. And that pride, that clarity, it lasts. Way longer than that Amazon order or that fancy dinner ever could. Look, this doesn't mean you never enjoy life. We're not talking about misery. We're talking about mastery. Because when you practice delayed gratification, you don't just build wealth. You build character. You build confidence. You build trust in yourself. You stop chasing comfort and start building capacity. And here's the deeper truth. When you delay gratification, what you gain isn't just money, it's time. Most people spend their entire lives working to fund their impulses. But the wealthy, they invest early, build streams, and buy back time. They buy the ability to say no to jobs they hate. They buy mornings without alarms. They buy time with their kids, freedom to travel, space to breathe. They don't spend to feel rich. They delay so they can live rich. Here's what I want you to take away. Every dollar you delay today is a dollar with potential. It could become $10. It could become an asset. It could become leverage. But only if you have the patience to wait. That's the mindset of the 3%. And it's available to you, right now. Not when you make six figures. Not when the economy changes. Not when someone gives you permission. Right now. With the next purchase. With the next decision. So here's your challenge. For the next 30 days, practice intentional delay. Every time you feel the urge to buy something impulsively, pause. Wait 24 hours. Ask yourself, is this building my future or draining my potential? Then take that money, even if it's just $5, and invest it in your future. Save it, stack it, start a new habit, and track what changes, not just in your wallet, but in your mindset. Because once you realize you don't need every pleasure right now, you start to feel something deeper, control, and that's real power. Let me leave you with this. The world is full of people trying to feel rich for a moment, but the few who become wealthy, they trade moments for movement. They trade toys for time. They trade impulse for impact. And that's the trade worth making. Delay gratification. Invest in your future. Buy back your freedom. One decision at a time. You made it to the end. And that means something, because most people quit halfway. They get excited, then distracted, inspired, then overwhelmed. They start, but they don't finish. But you stayed, you listened, you grew. And now, you're no longer just learning how to build wealth. You're becoming the kind of person who creates it. Not by chance, not by luck, but by intention, by design. You've shifted from consuming to creating, from surviving to strategizing, from spending by default to investing with purpose. And that means everything, because wealth isn't built in big leaps. It's built in quiet moments. When you decide to track your money, when you pay yourself first, when you say not yet to impulse and yes to discipline, when you teach what you learn and live what you teach. That's not just finance, that's transformation. So what now? You act, you lead, you live this. You make your first system. You start your second income stream. You open that book. You cancel that wasteful expense. You set a goal with a deadline and you keep it. Because everything changes when you decide to change. Not next year. Not when life calms down. Now comment below. I'm building real wealth, one decision at a time. Let the world know you've joined the 3%. Subscribe, turn on the bell, because this isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your next level. This is not just about money, it's about identity, leadership, legacy. This is wealth mindset, and your new life starts here.